Okay. So we were on the API and the raw material, whatever the pre-formulation studies that we have to do. Basically, the drug excipient compatibility studies, in which we evaluate if the API is compatible with your excipients or not. It can be in terms of, it depends, how many APIs you are using. If it is a single API, then with the excipient individually, you have to prepare binary mixtures in terms of dry mix as well as the mix in which you add some kind of moisture, just to see the impact of moisture on your API-SA values or the impurity levels. Your XRD you have to do, because if sometimes the patent has claimed a particular polymorph, then being as a non-infringing strategy, you need to evaluate that yes, your 2 theta values or intensity or 2 theta values does not match with the values of that claimed in the patent by the innovator. Hygroscopic studies, they are done generally at 25-degree temperature at 80% RH, and the sample is kept in a desiccator for around 24 hours. Then you evaluate the mass, the difference, what is the final mass minus the initial mass. You will come to know is if there is any change in the mass. If there is a particular, there are some limits which have been defined by European Pharmacopoeia, that will define that whether your product is liquescent, deliquescent, or it is non-hygroscopic. So there are some criteria that have been set in the European Pharmacopoeia, followed by some of the photostability studies. You need to evaluate your product or your API in photostability chamber, which is having the lux of around 1.2 million lux. It should not be less than that. You will evaluate it for 48 hours, followed by your solubility studies. Solubility studies will be done at different pH as well as water. The pH range will be in situ or in similar with your gastric pH, starting from your acidic condition to your alkaline condition, that is pH 1.2 to 6.8. Those solubility studies we will do. Solubility studies will further help you in deciding your dissolution method also, followed by your analytical methods that need to be there, because since you are initiating your drug excipient compatibility studies, you have to be ready with your methods of your SA. RS is rated substance, which is your impurity levels. Your reference characterization, because since we have received our brand product, we need to do the physical evaluation as well as the chemical evaluation. Physical evaluation in terms of your size, shape, disintegration time. These are generally taken into your physical, and then chemical properties, which include your SA values, your related substance values, your dissolution values. So these are the characteristics which you have to note it down of your reference product, because based on your reference product, you will develop your strategies. You will develop that how much dissolution I want for my particular product, followed by your QBD. QBD is your quality by design. It is generally done in 2 stages. Stage 1, which includes your initiation of your QTPPs. QTPPs, your quality target product profile. It defines you that what are your targets and why you need those targets. So these QTPPs you have to initiate in QBD stage 1. Based on your QTPPs, you have to define your critical quality attributes, which will impact your safety, efficacy, and quality of product. CQA of any drug product can include your microbial values, your SA values, your dissolution values, your physical values also. So these are generally included in your CQAs. We will not discuss in depth about these QPD, because we have designed some of the of our online modules, in which we will teach each and every module, each and every aspects in detail, which I will share with you in the later stage. Then your risk assessment you have to do, because before starting any activities, you need to assess what are the risks, and based on risk you have to define, the risk is whether medium, high, or low. And based on your risk, you will design your strategies or design your product development such that the risk which are on the higher side or the risk which are on the medium side, you need to put it down to low based on your experiments, whatever you are going to perform. So that will provide a rationale that initially the risk was high, but based on your development, you have put the risk from high to low or medium to low. This is risk assessment, QTPP, CQA. These are also our part of modules that we will be discussing later on the stage. And finally, the trade right design, because finally, since you have your finished product, you should comply with the regulatory agencies also, because regulatory agencies ask you to follow the size and shape guideline, which is available on the US FDA site. So it's very stringent. Otherwise, if you are not following the size and shape guideline, then your product cannot be approved in that case. Now, talking about, we have done our preliminary activities, we have done our pre-formulation studies. When we talk about the formulation development studies, what are the studies which are done on the initial stages? In formulation development, you will evaluate MPs, nothing but your manufacturing processes, whether you want to go with the dry granulation process, whether it is advisable to go for DC, whether it is advisable to go with the granulation. Granulation is also of different type. I mean, in terms of wet granulation, or in the RMG or the rapid mix granulator, or whether you have to go granulation, which is a top spray. That totally depends on the product to product and what is the requirement. Because if, for example, if you are having a low dose API, for example, you are having a dose of 1 mg and your tablet weight is around 200 mg, so in that case it is not advisable to go for the direct mixing, because ultimately it can impact your what you can say, your blend uniformity, your content uniformity. So those aspects also, in terms of if your API is sensitive to the moisture, then you should not go with the granulation process. You can opt for the dry granulation process, such as slugging or roller compaction. So these strategies will be evaluated, and finally you need to see that which process is feasible for you. Followed by, once you have developed your process, you have identified the process that you will be using, you will evaluate the critical material attributes, CMAs, in terms of your, for example, your API particle size. You will need to justify the agency that why you have selected a particular API particle size based on your CQAs. For example, you are working on different particle size, you need to evaluate it with different particle size on the dissolution impact, and whatever the dissolution is comparable with the innovator in terms of F1, F2, you need to finalize that particle size. And talking about the critical formulation variables, which includes your impact of disintegrants, you need to identify impact of lubricant, impact of binders. So those studies you will do in formulation development. uh, Analytical development also, I mean, in terms of they will prepare the final method for dissolution, because the agency nowadays, they are asking the rationale behind why you have taken this particular dissolution method in terms of your product, because dissolution can impact from product to product, or sometimes in terms of your formulation aspect also. So you need to justify why you have selected this particular media, although it is available in the monograph, although it is available in the OGD, but still you need to justify that why you have taken this particular dissolution conditions. And as I said, we should have the similarity. The similarity, what we are talking about in terms of dissolution, and how we can show that the particular dissolution is similar to your innovator. It can be in terms of F1 and F2. F1 is your dissimilarity factor, and F2 is your similarity factor. F1 value should be less than 15, and F2 value should be above 50. But in some cases, you can go with the model dependent and model independent approaches. But first of all, companies, industries prefer to go for the F1 and F2, followed by, if there is any discrepancies or if they are getting lower values in terms of the F2 less than 50, they can very well approach with the model or model independent approaches. We have, in our current past, we have gone with some model approaches also, which the agency have accepted it, but you have to provide a scientific rationale behind that. Then once you have done your formulation, you have to select the packaging, which pack is suitable for you. If you see in US, most of the packaging comes in the HDP, high density polyethylene bottles. are available in US, but nowadays some of the products are coming into blister pack also in US, but there are most of the significant amount of products are in the SDP. If you see about Europe countries, I mean, they are mostly they are preferring the blister pack. And you have to have the stability studies data with you, because once you have finalized your prototype, you should see whether your formulation is stable for at least 6 month accelerated condition. We must know that there are different conditions basically for the people who are in the diploma, or who are in the bachelors. So they should be aware of the different stability conditions. For example, your accelerated, your intermediate, and your long term studies. Then you have to do some photo stability studies also in terms of your finished product, whether your product is stable in the light or not. That is why when we see some of the suspensions or some of the solutions, why they are in the amber colored, or some of the blisters, why the blisters they are in amber colored. So the reason behind is they may be unstable in the presence of light. And also some dosage forms, we can also coat them if we want to make them photo stable. But if we don't have the option of coating, then obviously we need to change the color of blisters. Yeah, so coming to once we have finalized our prototype, then comes the later stage, which we have to transfer our prototype batches in the GMP areas where we manufacture our pilot batches. Pilot batches are nothing. The quantity of the batch are less than your commercial batches and bigger than your R&D batches. So the batch size is almost in the middle. So in terms of why do we do the pilot batches? Just to see the process feasibility. If there is any issue in the scale up when you are transferring the product from R&D to plant, or you are transferring your for example, you are in the R&D, you are doing granulation in 2 liter bowl, but in plant you have around 100 liter bowl or 500 liter bowl. So in that case, will the impact of scalability impact your critical quality attributes? So these things we need to evaluate at plant level. And once you have done your pilot manufacturing, you have to, it is the option of the companies if they want to carry forward with the pilot B studies, pilot bioequivalence studies, in which we have to generate some of the data in against your innovator product, in which you do the bioequivalence studies. The number of subjects can be less, because at least you need to have some kind of confidence that yes, if I go with this formulation, it will click or not. If the things goes in the right direction, if the formulation is bioequivalent in terms of your AUC, your Cmax, it is comparable with your innovator, then you can go forward for your later stages, which are scale up or exhibit batches. But in certain cases, if the bioequivalence fails in your pilot batches, then you need to work out, you need to reformulate, you need to see how was the behavior of your drug molecule in the plasma in terms of your bioequivalence. So based on the bioequivalence data that you have received, you need to reformulate, that how you can change your formulation so that it will be bioequivalent to your formulation. If everything goes well, then you can obviously go for the later stages. Now, what are the final stages of formulation development? Up till pilot batch, it was the initial stages, but the final stages are, since you have finalized your pilot B, you have a final prototype in your hand. Based on the final formula, you will challenge your process in terms of what are your critical process parameters. For example, if you are working on wet granulation in RMG, you need to see the impact of binder addition, you need to see the impact of kneading. So these are the processes, I will be not discussing in details, but you need to challenge your process. Whatever manufacturing process you have opted, you need to challenge it, maybe in terms of your granulation, maybe in terms of your compression. You need to see whether what is the impact of your compression speed, what is the impact of your tablet hardness. So these are the the process that you are going to scale up, or the process which you are opting for your exhibit batches or your commercial batches, that process should be properly challenged. If it is well, if you are properly challenging it, you will not face any issue during the scale up or your commercial batches or your exhibit batches. So initially we talked about QBD stage 1, in which we evaluated the risk, whether the risk was high or medium. We need to concentrate only those risks which are on the high or the medium scale. And based on your whatever experiment that we have done, based on whatever critical process parameters we have evaluated, we have challenged, we can now, based on our data, we can reduce the risk from high, medium to low. And finally, you have to develop a control strategy, because based on your risk assessment on stage 1 and stage 2, whatever the strategy that you have taken, for example, you evaluated 3 particle size on dissolution, but based on your data you have found that yes, my, if I go with this particle size, my dissolution is well within the acceptance criteria. So that will be your control strategy. For therefore, for each and every step there would be a control strategy in your hand, and you need to submit it in the product development report. So whatever we discussed up till now, that whole document, whole observations need to be captured in your product development report, along with your QBD, along with your control strategies. So is there any question up to now? You can just type it in the chat box so that we can move forward. Anyways, if there are any questions, you can send us so that we can, we can be justified with your queries, because due to lack of time we will not be able to just answer all the queries. Okay, so we'll move to the next slide. So this is the overview of QBD, whatever we have discussed earlier. Based on our prior knowledge, based upon our RLD characterization, we need to define our QTPPs, which is your quality target product profile. You need to identify your CQAs, you need to identify your CPPs. Based on your risk assessment, all those experiments that you have done, and based on your results, you need to develop a control strategy. So this is what we discussed earlier. It is just, we have compiled it in a one slide. Now finally, the final step of any batch, whenever a product comes, it is like a small baby. So whenever the product comes to the commercial scale or the exhibit scale, that turns into adult, and then finally it goes into the market. So in our terms, when we any product comes in our hand, we call it as a baby. Because why we call it as a baby? Because we have to take care of it so that it can properly distribute in the patients, and we have to take utmost care at each and every step during the development process. Talking about the exhibit batch manufacturing, what are the major documents that should be provided by the R&D? For example, your master formula card, which is converted by the plant people into the batch manufacturing record. The master packaging card, which is converted into your batch packing record. The protocols, whatever the protocols that we will be uh, preparing, for example, your sampling protocol, whole time study protocol, stability study protocols, and as per your product requirements. So these are the protocols which are required whenever you are transferring the product to the larger scale for exhibit batch manufacturing, because every time when you are taking any samples, you need to have a proper plan, you need to have a proper protocol. Without any protocol, you cannot take any sample from the batch, because each and every thing will be noted in your BMR, as well as your protocols, because regulatory can ask you anytime, so you need to have the proper justification, proper documentation with you. So starting from the lab to your exhibit batches, quality assurance, quality control, QMS system plays a very important role, because each and every document can is in the window of your what you can say, in the window in the window of your inspection. So every document should be properly written. There should be no discrepancies in the document, whatever you are providing, or whatever document or data you are generating in the lab, as well as your R&D, as well as your commercial scale. Then you need to have your final specifications. Specifications are the limits which you need to keep. For example, your release specifications, your in-process specifications, your shelf life specifications. Specifications generally defines your critical quality attributes. What are the parameters that will impact your quality? So those parameters are included in your specifications. In these slides, or in this webinar, we are discussing only the overview of these. If you want any detailed discussion, we have our separate modules, online training modules, in which we will be focusing on each and every part on a single lecture, or around 1 or 2 hours, because if I talk each and every part in detail, it will take hell of a time. So our main focus is just to have an overview, what is the cycle which happens from lab to commercial, or the exhibit scale. Talking about the reports, what are the reports which are generated? Whatever the manufacturing that you have done, the exhibit batch manufacturing report will be prepared by the plant people, or with the people who are involved in the technology transfer in the plant. The stability studies that you have done, that will be captured in terms of your stability study report. The multimedia dissolution, as I forgot to mention earlier also, because in for the regulated market, you need to generate a multimedia dissolution at 3 pH, basically pH 1.2, 4.5 and 6.8, because that will indicate that yes, your test product and your reference product are behaving similar in terms of your multimedia. So that data you need to be generated at plant also. The whole time study report that need to be generated. The stability studies, which I have already told that it will be captured in your stability study report. And finally, the pivotal BE studies. Pivotal BE studies is a larger scale of bioequivalence studies compared with your pilot bioequivalence. Generally, in pilot bioequivalence, the number of volunteers or the healthy volunteers, they are on the lesser side, and based on your data that has been generated in pilot B, the biostatistician will tell you that yes, if you take this amount of volunteers, your chances of passing the bioequivalence will be high. So generally, in pilot bio studies, we usually take larger number of subjects depending on the data that you have received in pilot B. Finally, your dossier compilation and review. What are the steps that are included in your dossier compilation review, which is your data collection? Whatever the data that has been generated at the plant, at the R&D, that needs to be collected. Then the regulatory people or the QA people, they will perform some kind of in-house review, just to see if all the documents are in place. Is there any discrepancies in the documentation? And finally, your submission, you will, for example, for the US, you will do the submission in terms of ECDD, in which I have just explained that what are the different modules which are there. Module 1, which is your basically your regional and admin informations. Module 2 is an quality overall summary. Quality module 3 is your quality based. Module 4, generally in generics we don't need to submit it module 4, because module 4 is generally required for your branded products, in which you submit the non-clinical study reports, which is not done in your generic products. And finally, your module 5, which includes your whatever the bioequivalence studies that you have done, that includes your all the reports that has been generated at the CRO site, or clinical research organization site. Finally, the drug product review process, how the agency reviews the product. Whenever the applicant files an ANDA, which is your generic, if all the documents are in place, they will accept it. Otherwise, they will refuse to file. You will get a RTR if all the documents are not in place as per their requirements. If you have given the documents as per their requirements, then those documents as per the modules, as I already told you, those modules will be divided into different subsections of the agencies. For example, your bioequivalence review office will be different. The people who generally inspect your plant, they will initiate the plant inspection. Then the labeling review will be there. The chemistry review will be there. So after all those reviews, if your product doesn't fall in anything discrepancies, finally your ANDA is approved. So generally, whenever a product is approved, you usually get a tentative approval, and finally your final approval is there. I would request if somebody has switched off his camera mic. I can hear some voices. So finally, talking about what are the major steps that we have just discussed in this webinar, starting from the market survey or the market value which need to be generated by any company, because if any company is investing in a product, they should have a good return of investment. So first of all, they will do the market survey. Then, as I earlier told you, the pre-formulation and preliminary studies will be there. Your formulation development studies will be there. Your pilot batch and pilot B studies, your scale-up batch manufacturing will be there. Documentation and manufacturing of exhibit batches, which we have discussed. Stability studies for the registration batches. Pivotal B, which is very important. Your dossier compilation. Finally, your agency or regulatory review. Some agencies may come up with some product queries in terms of your CRL or DRL. So those queries you need to justify based on a scientific rationale. Once those queries you have responded, because the agency give you a small amount of time to answer those queries. Once the queries you have taken forward, you have responded, finally you have a drug product approval in your hand. So basically these were the steps which are included, starting from your lab to your exhibit batch manufacturing.